Have you ever really thought about it? How does a video game go from just a random idea to the thing you're playing on your screen? Millions of people dream about doing this for a living, but the real story? Well, it's way more complex, way more expensive, and a lot more intense than you'd probably think. So let's pull back the curtain and see how it actually works. And yeah, that complexity, it starts with something deeply human. This quote from someone on Reddit who wants to get into the industry, it just cuts right to the chase. It's about that tension between the absolute passion to create something amazing and the very real personal cost of doing it. It's a dream job, for sure, but it's a dream that comes with a pretty heavy reputation. So that's what we're going to break down. We're going to look at the whole journey, from designing the game to actually building it to figuring out how to pay for it all. We're going to get a look at the reality behind one of the biggest entertainment industries on the planet.
Okay, so every single game, I don't care if it's a tiny indie project made by one person or a gigantic blockbuster, they all start in the exact same place, pre-production. This is where the idea gets put to the test, it gets refined, planned out, all before the really expensive work gets started.
And it's pretty wild to see just how much the sheer scale of this has exploded over the years. Back in the 80s, one person could literally be the entire team. But as we, the players, started expecting better graphics, bigger worlds, more everything, the teams and the budgets had to skyrocket to keep up. We've gone from one creator to a small team to what are basically small armies of specialists, all focused on one single game.
So once an idea gets the green light, you hit the next big question. How do you actually make it fun? It sounds like some kind of magic, right? But game design is a real craft. Fun is something you can actually break down, analyze, and engineer right into a game's DNA.
And one of the key tools for that is something called the MDA framework. Think of it like a language for game design. You've got mechanics, those are the basic rules, the buttons you can press, what you can do. Then you've got dynamics, that's the gameplay that happens when you use those rules. The strategies, the behaviors that just kind of emerge. And aesthetics, that's the whole point. That's the emotional payoff, the feeling the player gets from it all.
And this right here shows you the biggest challenge for any designer. They work from the inside out. They build the mechanics, and they hope those mechanics create the right dynamics that will finally give the player a specific feeling. But the player experiences it in the complete opposite direction. We feel an aesthetic, like excitement or curiosity, and that feeling comes from the gameplay dynamics, which are only possible because of the mechanics humming away under the hood. The designer builds the engine, we just get to enjoy the ride.
So what are these feelings, these aesthetics that designers are chasing after? Well, the MDA framework lays out 8 of them. Things like the simple sensation of a gorgeous world, the narrative hook of a good story, the challenge of mastering a tough skill, or the fellowship you feel playing with your friends. The best games, they usually mix and match a few of these to create a really unforgettable experience. All right, so you've got the design blueprint. Now comes the long haul, production. This is the longest, most expensive part of the whole thing, where hundreds of people have to work together to actually build this game from scratch. A modern game is like a symphony, with all these different disciplines coming together. You've got the designers still tweaking the rules. You've got artists building every single character, tree, and explosion. Programmers are writing millions of lines of code to glue it all together. Then you add sound engineers, writers, and this huge army of testers whose only job is to try and break everything to find bugs. It's a gigantic interconnected machine. Okay, quick technical aside. You hear the term real-time thrown around all the time in gaming, but what does it actually mean? Well, in something critical, like a car's airbag system, real-time means there's a hard guarantee it will respond within a tiny, strict deadline, no exceptions. In gaming, it's a bit softer. It just means the game's engine can draw pictures fast enough, like 144 times every second, so that it looks perfectly smooth to our eyes. It's all about creating the illusion of fluid motion. Now, for online games, one of the biggest technical mountains to climb is scale. How do you handle thousands or even millions of players at the same time? You can try vertical scaling, just making one server bigger and beefier, but you hit a limit pretty fast. The real magic is in horizontal scaling, adding more servers that share the work. And here's the kicker. Huge engines like Unreal, they aren't really built to do that right out of the box. That means if you want to build a massive online world, you have to build this incredibly complex, custom server system on top of everything else. It's a huge project all on its own. But believe it or not, just building the game is only half the battle. Making a game isn't just an art project or a tech demo, it's a massive business. And that means you have to protect what you've created. It's absolutely critical. See, a video game isn't just one thing, legally.
It's a whole bundle of different types of intellectual property. You have copyright, which protects all the creative stuff, the code, the art, the music. Then you have trademarks, which protect the brand, the game's name, the logo everyone recognizes. You can even get a patent if you invent a really new and clever game mechanic. It's like having multiple layers of legal armor protecting every single piece of the project.
And it's not just about protecting your own stuff. Before a game can ship, the developers have to be 100% certain they aren't stepping on anyone else's toes. That's why teams use tools just like this risk assessment table. They have to go through every asset in the game, every sound, every texture, and make sure they have the legal right to use it.
So where does the money for a project that costs millions of dollars even come from? Well, the traditional way was a publisher would pay for everything, but that usually meant giving up a big chunk of the profits and maybe some creative control. Today, though, things are a bit more interesting. You've got venture capital firms investing in new studios, crowdfunding, where we, the players, can fund games directly, and of course, self-funding for smaller indie developers. Each path has its own big trade-offs between having enough money and having creative freedom.
All right, we've looked at the creative process, the business side of things, but now we need to talk about the staggering cost of it all, both in cold, hard cash and in the toll it can take on the very people who make these games we love so much.
Just look at that number for a second. $200 million. And get this, according to industry analysts, that can be the cost to develop a huge blockbuster game before you even spend a single penny on marketing it. This insane, relentless rise in costs puts this unbelievable pressure on teams to deliver a mega hit every single time. There's no room for failure.
And that intense pressure, that is what leads to this. Crunch culture. It's one, to meet a deadline, teams have to work insane hours. We're talking nights, weekends, often for weeks or even months straight. It is, without a doubt, one of the most hotly debated and controversial parts of the entire industry.
So, is crunch just this unavoidable evil, or is it an exploitative practice that needs to stop? Well, the truth is, it's not that simple. You go online and you find developers with completely different stories. You have one person saying, look, a lot of my crunch was paid overtime. We got good food, and honestly, there was a sense of teamwork. They even say people they know speak fondly of it. But then you have another developer giving a stark warning. Just don't do it. The more people who refuse, the faster the culture will change, even if that means you have to quit your job. There really is no single story here.
Which brings us right back around to where we started. We've seen the smart design ideas, the incredible technology, the eye-watering budgets, and the very real personal costs. Making games is a dream job, there's no doubt, and it's born from pure passion. So the final question is one that every single developer and every person dreaming of becoming one has to answer for themselves. Is that dream worth the reality of the process?